SP Convo. SP Convo. Let's do it. Damn, I can't see. I'm black. My glasses off. See, my eyes is white. Let me keep my glasses off. The original narrative of America. Black and white. No other two races are mad. No other two races mattered at that time, except white and black, black and white. That's in the fabric of the United States of America. We're not talking about culturally, we're just talking about race, skin color. And that's what make America America. I'm jumping straight out the gate saying that. Because no matter what culture you come from, what country you come from, and your culture you practice, if your skin is dark, you're not light. If you're amongst black people and your skin is white, you're not light. Now I'm saying that to say that's what it's looking like right now in 2026. It's looking like 2026 is just a flashback to the 1940s and 30s when racism was high, where blacks were being hung, strained up. White people was able to say whatever they wanted to say to a black man. A young white boy aged 10 could call a 65, 70-year-old black man boy. The nerve. Have you ever? That's what it was. And certain people want to see that again. They wouldn't mind that again. For whatever the reason. But me, I ain't going for it. And neither is the new generation of blacks born in America not going for it. Never gonna happen again. So, whether we like it or not, black and white gonna have to coexist with each other because neither one could push neither one out of the country. Because black and white Americans know each other very well. To a certain extent, they act the same. Here's my little small example. When you see white people walking down the block, clutching their purse, you see black women doing the same thing when they're seeing white people walking down the block. Black women are clutching their purse. Touche. They don't like it. When you see white people have their dogs, they walk their dogs. Back in the days, they used to let the leash take their dogs off the leash and let them attack black people and bite black people. Now they try to be somewhat smart and just get a longer leash with that little mechanism and let the dog run and then let the leash get extended real far, and then when it gets close to you, maybe if you catch on, they pull the dog back. But if you're not paying attention, they let the dog jump on you and say, "Oh, sorry." But they have the little sinister smirk. So you know what black people do? They get their pit bulls and their dogs and they take the dog off the leash. And when the dogs get wild and they go towards the white people, they go, "Hey, get back here." Touche. So white people and black people of the United States of Americas, they act the same. And why wouldn't they? They've been together for the past 400 years. So they like ebony and ivory, keys on the piano, you know, black and white cookie, as the thumbnail shows. You know, the Carmelo Anthony and Austin Metcalf is the hottest thing smoking, even though he got sentenced to 35 years. Even though Carmelo Anthony sent away to serve 35 years, this footage just came out, and a lot of variables is starting to pull up and pop up. So, there's a guy named Eddie. He's not white nor black. He said he didn't know Carmelo Anthony. Then later on, he found out he knows Carmelo Anthony. He favored to the Metcalf crew. I guess he didn't want to seem like he was close to a black man. If Eddie was in America back in the days, he'd have got eliminated by the white people, and he'd have been befriended and accepted and loved by the black people if this was back then. In 2026, it still seems like the game is being played. People pair up, and whoever with the darker skin gets outed, and the one with the closest skin get accepted until the white people don't want you there no more. So good luck to Eddie in the future if you think getting rid of Carmelo was a good play. So America has changed now. You have so many different ethnic groups in America, but the skin color don't change. You have Hispanics who come in white, yellow, brown, jet black. But the original creed and culture and race was from Spain. So there's somewhat the skin color of Italians or white. Well, not really pale white, but white. But that bloodline got mixed up because they already mixed up once they came to Central America and the Caribbean. So that's that. Black people too was mixed in America with the slave mixing and all that. So they're not a pure race neither. But still no, if your skin is dark, you considered black. Even though your character and your ways may be of Caucasian if you're raised in America. But the outer skin is the reason why they say, oh, you're not me, you're black. But white Americans and black Americans have the same characteristics because they both born in the same country with the same ideologies. Okay. So in reality, Austin Metcalf and Carmelo Anthony supposed to pair up, and Eddie supposed to be on the outskirts. If America was advanced and if America have grown up and see that, okay, every other country claim every member of its country its own. America still want to say, okay, black Americans are citizens, but we still want nothing to do with them because of the color of their skin. Go figure. So we're going to tap into this black and white scenario so you can get an understanding of this is not made up talk. This is real. This is a real situation going on. Black and white are cool with each other. Black and white have mixed with each other. Black and white have married each other. But black and white still are like magnets. They just can't really connect. Let's get it. So, why history continues to shape racial inequality in the U.S. Nearly 160 years after the end of slavery, significant disparities persist between black and white Americans. This column studies the long-run effects of slavery in the Jim Crow laws that enforced racial segregation following the Civil War on black Americans' economic outcomes. You heard that? The long-run effects of slavery in the Jim Crow laws that enforced racial segregation following the Civil War on Black Americans' economic outcomes. Those whose ancestors were enslaved until the Civil War have less education, income, and wealth than black families whose ancestors were free. So right there, there's admitting that in America, you have black Americans that was free and had wealth, had things. Disparities that persist not simply because of slavery, but because most families enslaved until the Civil War lived in states with strict Jim Crow regimes when slavery ended. Now, this is 160 years after the end of slavery. Nearly 160 years. So, nearly 160 years since the end of slavery, significant disparities in education, income, wealth, and other metrics continue to exist between black and white Americans. Policy proposals designed to compensate descendants of enslaved people have recently regained both public and academic attention. Still, the concept of reparations remains divisive, possibly because perceptions diverge on why these inequalities persist. Black Americans and white Democrats tend to attribute racial inequality to past injustices, whereas white Republicans often point to individual choices or insufficient effort. Insufficient effort. Than what you do for yourself. And if you don't push hard, you don't deserve nothing. But you know this country have different traps and obstacles and hurdles to get you to stumble along your way to your journey, on your road to the riches. They don't want to see you rich. That's either party, Democratic or Republican. It's just one know how to tell you what you want to hear, and one is going to tell you what you're not going to get. Our latest research presents unprecedented evidence on how deeply racial inequalities was entrenched by anti-black institutions. Our result revealed that black Americans whose ancestors were enslaved until the Civil War still have far lower economic status than black Americans whose ancestors were free earlier. When and where their environment allowed, formerly enslaved families made considerable economic strides in the decades after becoming free. However, most families who were enslaved until the Civil War lived in regions where Jim Crow laws significantly impeded their economic advancement for almost a century after emancipation. Our evidence highlights the persistent systemic oppression of black families in the Jim Crow South, which has severely limited their ability to achieve their full economic potential. So there you go right there. That's not the main reason why black Americans have a hard time pushing, because that's not every black American scenario as stated. But there are a lot of black Americans who are not able to push forward because all they know is that poverty mindset, all they know is setback, all they know is pushback, all they expect is some type of resistance. So most of them don't try hard because they don't want to continue to keep pushing because it's mentally draining and physically taxing on the body. So, it says, it is only recently that such research has become possible. Measuring the degree to which black families' economic status is still influenced by the experiences of their ancestors is challenging. Many black Americans themselves may not know their ancestors' full stories, making it difficult to measure the long-term effects of enslavement and discrimination. Therefore, researchers face the difficult task of gathering and tracking vast amounts of modern and historical data for individual families to quantify the effects of these experiences. However, recent methodological breakthroughs such as automated record linkage have made this task feasible. We have developed two innovative methods to identify the enslavement status of Black American ancestors. The first approach involves tracing the records of Black Americans from the present day back 160 years to their ancestor records. Do you understand? America keep records, man. That's what make American black slavery and the history of America so significant and so empowered compared to other countries that didn't keep records of where the slaves went to and from, who, why, this and that. That's what make America that country. America keep its receipts and they don't play. So America already know who's Black American. They already know who's not Black American. They already know this. The earliest U.S. census in 1850 and 1860 recorded free Black Americans but not enslaved individuals. You hear that? The census of the 1850s and 1860 recorded the free Black Americans. Only the free ones was recorded, but not the enslaved ones. So we classify those whose ancestors can be found in these censuses as descendants of free Black Americans, and those whose ancestors could not be found as descendants of enslaved Black Americans. See, they already got this system. They already put it in two categories. The second method is based on surnames of Black families. We leverage the fact that the surnames of free Black Americans often differ from those chosen by enslaved individuals who were freed after the Civil War. Specifically, we assess the probability of each surname being linked to free Black families versus enslaved families by examining changes in surname frequency across censuses. Comparing records exclusively listing free Black Americans to those incorporating enslaved families. So, what that tells me is that it's already up. You understand? It's already up. They already know. They don't want to let all of the Black Americans to have, because they don't know. Meaning they already know as a whole, every Black American that's born in America is not going to get that. You're not going to get the check. And on the other end of that, those that already was considered rich and had things, that's the reparations they gave out, because there's a lot of blacks that are rich in America that have family riches and generational wealth. It's the new ones. And the new ones are the ones that got freed after the Civil War. They still trying to find their way up. The other ones that been freed, they already got they already out into they already gone, man. They already living their life. They already got their things structured. So I just read the last little tidbit. It says, our new methods reveal a stark disparity. Black Americans whose ancestors were enslaved until the Civil War still face significant educational, income, and wealth gaps compared to descendants of those who gained their freedom earlier. Yeah, that makes sense. As I said, they already off the ones that already was freed. They already off to the races. They already living their life. They ain't worried about being poor no more. They already got the system down pat. They good. So, when I looked at Carmelo Anthony mom crying like that, to me, I would say she come from the families that was freed after the Civil War, still trying to figure it out. It have to be that. To me, I would say that. Now, Austin Metcalf, his family could have been slave masters or just probably well off to do individuals. Meaning his ancestors could have been that. So, if that's the case, I can see why Mr. Jet Metcalf feel a certain way about blacks. I can see why. Because he know there's blacks that have more than him. He know there's blacks that got the system down pat, and they don't have to worry about what he had to worry about or what he was going through. And that's the fear. That's the fear of white people. The fear of white people is to have black people surpass them because they already know. They already seen Black Wall Street, Tulsa. Black people had their own dentistry, their own supermarkets, their own businesses, their own everything. It was a rich city established. And they can't stand to see former slaves become citizens, and citizens become people that may be able to take over the country and run the country and make America their way. Because this particular person understands black people was first. All videos fair use, fair use. Fair use, fair use.
If only 17.
There's always something with this thing, man. Commercials non-stop nonsense, man.
Because black people came here first, and they faded as they moved farther and farther north from the equator. Their melanin faded so that their skin, their hair, and their eyes got lighter. Their brains didn't get smaller, but their skin, their hair, and their eyes got lighter. That's the only reason you children can call yourselves white. And you aren't white. We are all shades of brown. Look.
Oh, let's play it again.
Boys and girls, the only reason there are white people is because black people came here first, and they faded as they moved farther and farther north from the equator. Their melanin faded so that their skin, their hair, and their eyes got lighter. Their brains didn't get smaller, but their skin, their hair, and their eyes got lighter. That's the only reason you children can call yourselves white. And you aren't white. We are all shades of brown.
They don't want to hear that. They don't want to hear that. They don't want to hear that at all. Now we gotta get into this. The separation of white and blacks. Sorry, of white and blacks. Checking on something real quick. I'm gonna read this real quick. It says the separation between white and black Americans is rooted in centuries of slavery, segregation, and systemic racism, while bonds have been shaped by shared struggles, cultural exchange, and civil rights activism. The division between white and black Americans began with colonization and slavery, which established a racial hierarchy and restricted black people's access to land, education, and political power. After the Civil War, Jim Crow laws enforced legal segregation in the South, mandating separate schools, transportation, and public facilities, while northern cities often practiced a de facto segregation through housing patterns and social norms, as the Supreme Court 1896 decision in Plessy versus Ferguson. It legitimized separate but equal accommodations, reinforcing systemic separation. Oh, okay. So Plessy versus Ferguson. Separate but equal. So basically, yeah, the North is sneaky with it. There's racism in the North too, but they covered by laws. They sneaky. Where in the South it's straight out. They tell you, get out my face. I don't like you. N-word. And in the North they clean it up. Oh no, it's not that. It can't possibly be that. We not the South. We the North. It goes like this. It goes like that. Now I need to understand why was Trayvon Martin unalive like that? Why Eric Garner was unalive by the cops like that? Or Mr. Castile was unalive by the police officer like that? While Freddie Gray was unalive by the police officers like that? Come on. Come on. There's too much information out here for us to be still stuck in the past with all this, like, what's going on? Why is that happening? There's too much information, man. America supposed to be a first world country with all this racism stuff pushed behind, man. This stuff right here supposed to be way behind, but it's never gonna go nowhere because it's in the fabric of the United States of America for blacks and whites to be at odds with each other, to be separate but equal. So I'm allowed to have what I want to have. I'm just not allowed to have what I have amongst white people. I can have my building across the street. I can have my car, my jewelry. I can have my college degree. But I'm just not allowed to go across the street and be with them, share it with them. Makes sense. But we're going to hear from this particular person that feel black people should never even be freed or have education whatsoever because he just feel like it shouldn't be. Can't make this up. You can't make this up. Fair use. For educational purposes, fair use.
In my opinion, the white man should have never ended slavery. Of the black community. White man should have never abolished slavery. Because once they were free, look how much your shit's gotten out of hand.
Let slavery come back tomorrow. Well, they don't want us in their little areas and all that shit. Ain't that funny? Don't want us in their neighborhood. When they own us, we was in their house. What kind of bullshit is that? Oh, I can't come in the neighborhood, but when you own me, I was warming up your bed. Now, there's something wrong with this picture. Shit, when they own us, we had 12 and 14 jobs. Now that we free, I'm so sorry, there's no jobs. Mad because we got away. Let slavery come back in the mall. They'll be on that porch. Welcome home.
Slavery.
That's cute. Now go take your ass to the hood and go express that, sir. Don't do this behind a phone. Don't do this in a safe place. No. I'm going to need you to go take your ass deep into the hood where it's predominantly black people, and I want you to go say that right in front of them.
You know what she said? Because at this time, that's what it's going to be. And you heard what the white guy said. They got out of hand. Because they got in their head that black people supposed to slave for them forever. And they also got people from around the world thinking black people supposed to slave for them too. But back home in their country, they just as poor and poorer than the black Americans. And that's a fact. They as poor as the ones that was, the black Americans that was freed after the Civil War. Some people around the world is poorer than that. But come to America and think black Americans supposed to serve them. And black Americans is one of the richest people. As you seen, it's stated. Black Americans, the ones that was freed before the Civil War, rich, taken care of, good to go. So, proof is right there in the pudding. The chant of "This land was made for you and me," that's an inviting. That's words of invite. No, like invitingly. Oh, this land is made for you and me. Come to the country. Everything is good. But then when you get here, it's like a nightmare. Like a real life nightmare that you can't get out of. It's like you almost set yourself up. Carmelo Anthony, Austin Metcalf. That situation was not supposed to be like that because their ancestors been in this country for over 400 years. They're supposed to be like Stevie Wonder and Paul McCartney, Ebony and Ivory. And that's another thing that gets me. All these different black and white collaborations and success. And yet, in 2026, all this stuff is still going on. I'll say in the last 30 years, all this stuff is still going on. The black guy that got choked out in the New York City train, Pettaway, the guy that got hurt, I think his name McNeil. Forgive me for the name, but this is too much. But I get it though. If it's the foundation, if it's the American way, it's not going to change. That's one thing that's not going to change in America. Is the fact that when you come to America, it's not just a white country, it's a black and white country. Something compelled me to just put this together. And I think it's more so from the Carmelo Anthony and Austin Metcalf situation. And then to find out that Eddie, who's neither white or black, played his hand inside Carmelo and Austin getting in a confrontation. Yeah, Eddie is the reason why that situation unraveled. A third-party vendor got between the narrative of white and black Americans doing their average routine of one day being friendly, next day being opposite. But they still know each other in the sense of white and black being with each other for over 400 years. It's the newcomers that's trying to find a way to get in good and get in close, and the only thing they can say is, well, my skin color is not black. So I have more in common with you than they have. But not when it comes to America. The black may have more in common with the white American than any other group that migrates into America. And that's a fact. And I'm going to say it again. The black man in America has just as much in common with the white man in America than any other ethnic group that may have a closer skin color to white America. Because white America and black America, as you just seen, been in this country for a long time with each other. So they have more in common than any other outside group. Where's the lie? Tell me I'm lying. I'll wait. So, with that being said, black and white, the American cookie. Black and white, the original narrative. Black and white is the United States of America. And it's always going to be like this. Sad and unfortunate, but they like cousins. Both of them could go at it, but you can't get in the middle of it. So let's see how America going to be in the future. Will black and whites continue to have this hold on America? Or would the other migrants that come into America would disillusion and dissolve the great American fabric and way of thinking and way of carrying themselves? I think not. I think white and black are always going to be here. And everybody's going to have to soon assimilate and fall in line. If you don't know, now you know, people.